Greetings, folks. Welcome. Are you ready for some football? First, let me ask you this question. Would you believe me if I told you I didn't play football in high school? Well, I didn't, but I do know something about football. Let's suppose the weights of NFL linemen are normally distributed with a mean of 330 pounds and a standard deviation of 10 pounds. So what percentage of NFL linemen weigh between 340 and 355 pounds? To answer this question, we'll use the standard normal distribution. But let's start with the distribution of the variable itself. So of course, a normal distribution is characterized by its mean and standard deviation. So you see the center of the distribution is 330, which is the mean. I put in a couple of lines for 340 and 355 pounds. Of course, I put in question marks because we don't know the percentage of the distribution yet that fall between those two weights. So we will take the values from our distribution and we'll transform them into z-scores. So of course, a z-score is calculated as the value of the variable minus the mean of the variable divided by the standard deviation. So we interpret the z-score as a number of standard deviations that a value is above or below the mean. So if it's a positive value, it tells us the number of standard deviation above the mean. If it's a negative value, it tells you the number of standard deviations below the mean. So one of the values we are interested in was 340. So that's the value of the variable. You subtract from it the mean of 330. You divide it by 10, and you get a z-score of 1. So that tells us 340 is one standard deviation above the mean. Of course, the other value we were interested in was 355, which is 2.5 standard deviations above the mean. That's 355 minus 330 is 25. You divide that by 10, and you get 2.5. So now we can plot these two z-scores on a standard normal curve. So of course, the center of a standard normal distribution is 0. You see the z-score of 1, which corresponds with a value of 340. And then you see the z-score of 2.5 that corresponds with a value of 355 pounds. So first, we'll try to figure out the percentage of the distribution that is lower than a z-score of 2.50. So we'll go to our standard normal table. You see the z-scores in the first column, 1.9, 2.0, 2.1, 2.2. So first I have to remind you that this is not a full standard normal table. An entire table would take more space than you could see on the screen in front of you. But at any rate, you go down to 2.5 in that first column. And since the value we're looking for is exactly 2.5, you just go over to that first cell next to it in that next column over, and you see it in red, 0.9938. So this is what it looks like under the standard normal curve. You see the z-score of 2.50, and I put in an arrow there to show you that about 99.38% of the distribution is less than that 2.50. What about a z-score of 1? If you go to our standard normal table, and if you look at the z-score, that first column, you see 0.5, 0.6, etc. You go down to 1. And since the value is 1.0, you go to the next column over, and you see it in red that it's 0.8413. So this tells us that about 84% of the distribution is to the left of 1 or has a z-score of less than 1. So we can see this on the standard normal curve. You see the z-score of 1, and I show you that 0.8413, or about 84% of the distribution, is less than that z-score of 1. So if you pull them both together, you see 0.9938% of the distribution is less than a z-score of 2.5. With a z-score of 1, 0.8413% is less. So the value in between is 0.1525. So about 15% of the distribution is between a z-score of 1 and 2.5. I found that by taking 0.9938, subtracted from that 0.8413. Again, that gives you about 15%. So now we'll go back to the original distribution of weights of offensive linemen in the NFL. And we show here that between 340 pounds and 355 pounds, you have about 15% of the distribution. So that helps us answer our original question, which was, Suppose the weights of NFL linemen are normally distributed with a mean of 330 and a standard deviation of 10. What percentage weigh between 340 and 355 pounds? Well, the answer is 15.25%.